The signal arrived at Galactic Council headquarters on a quiet morning, and it changed everything. Communications. Officer Thelvar nearly dropped his data tablet when the ancient frequency scanner began screaming alerts. Dead frequencies didn't just activate themselves, especially not frequencies that had been silent for 11,000 years. Impossible, he whispered, his 4 eyes widening in disbelief. The signal originated from Dead Zone Alpha 7, a region of space so barren and lifeless that most modern star charts didn't even label it properly. It was just empty space, where nothing lived and nothing happened. Until now. Within hours, the entire Galactic Council chamber buzzed with confusion and worry. Representatives from 200 species gathered to discuss the impossible signal. Most had never heard of Dead Zone Alpha 7. Those who had knew only that ancient records marked it as forbidden territory. Council Archivist Velthara, a elderly Minari with silver feathers and keen eyes, spent the entire day searching through corrupted historical databases. What she found made her hands tremble. There was a species, she announced to the assembled council. They called themselves humans. They lived in the Sol system, at the heart of what we now call Dead Zone Alpha 7. What happened to them? Asked Chancellor Mordex, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. Velthara's feathers ruffled with uncertainty. The records are damaged, fragmented, but they mentioned something called the Vex-Kari Scourge and a great war. After that, the humans simply vanished. Most scholars believe they were destroyed or fled into deep space. And now they're calling for help? Suggested Ambassador Krell, her insectoid features clicking with interest. Or warning us, Velthara said quietly. The council voted to send an investigation team. The survey ship, Luminous Traverse, was chosen for its advanced sensors and diverse crew. Captain Texilor, a massive Korthan with thick gray skin and centuries of exploration experience, would lead the mission. His crew included specialists from 12 different species. Among them was Jin-Soo Park, a young diplomat and communications expert, whose species, the Terran diaspora, had scattered across the galaxy so long ago that most people had forgotten their origins. Jin-Soo studied the fragmentary records about humans during the 3-week journey to the Sol system. Something about the partial images and corrupted text felt strangely familiar, though she couldn't explain why. The few surviving pictures showed bipedal creatures that looked almost like her own people, but the resemblance seemed too perfect to be coincidence. When the Luminous Traverse finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system, every crew member fell silent. The system wasn't dead, it was sleeping. Massive structures orbited every planet. Ancient stations circled dying moons. Rings of dormant satellites surrounded a yellow star that still burned brightly. And around the third planet from the sun, a blue and green world covered in white clouds, dozens of megastructures waited in perfect formation. By the ancestors, Captain Thexilor breathed. This technology is beyond anything we have now. The ship's sensors struggled to analyze the structures. They were built from materials that shouldn't exist, using engineering principles that made no sense. Yet there they sat, perfectly preserved after 11 millennia. Captain, I'm detecting power fluctuations, announced Science Officer Pextal, his tentacles dancing across his console. One of the lunar structures is activating. On the view screen, a facility on the planet's single gray moon began to glow. Lights that had been dark for 11,000 years flickered to life. Panels that had collected cosmic dust for longer than most civilizations had existed started moving, tracking the Luminous Traverse. Jin-Soo's communications board exploded with activity. Captain, we're being scanned. The signal is incredibly powerful, and using protocols I've never seen before. Defensive positions, Thexilor ordered calmly. But do not fire. We came here peacefully. A voice suddenly filled the ship's bridge. It spoke in a language nobody recognized, but the ship's translator struggled to make sense of it. After a few seconds of processing, words began forming. Unknown vessel identified. Civilization markers indicate post-collapse galactic development. Query: What is the current galactic cycle? Query. Has sufficient rebuilding time elapsed? Query. Why have you entered the Sol system? The voice was artificial but somehow felt alive. More advanced than any AI the current galaxy possessed. Captain Thexilor straightened his massive frame. This is Captain Thexilor of the Galactic Council ship, Luminous Traverse. We received a distress signal from these coordinates. We came to investigate and offer assistance. Please identify yourself. A pause. Then, designation. Guardian Protocol. Primary function. System defense and hibernation monitoring. Status. Distress beacon was automatic emergency activation due to external cosmic event. Assessment. No immediate threat detected. However, your arrival triggers awakening protocols. Stand by. Isimos. Windquote. Dewspire. Isimos. Awakening? Jinsu whispered. Awakening what? The facility on the moon suddenly blazed with light. Energy readings spiked across every spectrum. All across the world called Earth, hidden beneath mountains and oceans and ancient ice, massive underground facilities began receiving commands they had waited 11,000 years to execute. In caverns that stretched for hundreds of miles, in cities built under the ground that could house billions, in chambers protected by technology that made them invisible to any scan, systems activated. Temperature regulators began warming. Life support engaged. Medical monitors started checking vital signs. And in millions of pods arranged in perfect geometric patterns, frost began melting from transparent surfaces. Inside those pods, humanity slept. 15 billion humans, preserved in perfect cryogenic suspension, began the slow process of waking. Their last memories were of a galaxy in flames, of an enemy that consumed worlds, of a desperate choice to hide, to wait, to guard something precious until the galaxy healed enough to face the truth. Guardian's voice returned. Hibernation cycle interrupted after 11,047 years, 3 months, and 12 days. Awakening procedure initiated. Estimated time to minimum operational capacity, 72 hours. Estimated time to full awakening, 30 days. Minimum operational capacity for what? Captain Thexilor asked, though part of him feared the answer. Military defense readiness. Threat assessment required before civilian population awakening. Warning. Approaching vessels should maintain minimum distance of 1 million kilometers from Earth's surface. Defense systems are autonomous and will activate if protocols are violated. Jinsu checked her sensor readings, and her blood went cold. Captain, I'm detecting weapons. Thousands of them, built into the megastructures, hidden in the lunar surface, positioned throughout the entire system. This isn't a dead civilization. It's a fortress. On Earth's surface, in a command center beneath what had once been called Korea, Colonel Sarah Minjun's eyes opened for the first time in 11,000 years. Her first thought was clear and sharp despite the long sleep. Had they returned? Had the Vexkari come back? Around her, other pods began opening. Soldiers, engineers, scientists, all waking to a world they had left behind when it was covered in war. They had prepared for this moment, trained for it, built their entire civilization around the possibility that one day they would need to fight again. Because humanity hadn't hidden from the enemy 11,000 years ago. They had been waiting. On the bridge of the Luminous Traverse, Captain Thexilor looked at his crew's frightened faces and made a decision. Open a channel to Galactic Council headquarters. Priority. Emergency. Tell them we found the humans, and tell them the humans are waking up, Jinsu added quietly, looking at the blue planet below. Tell them we might want to know why they went to sleep in the first place. In the depths of space, far beyond the Sol system, something ancient and hungry detected the surge of power. Detected the familiar energy signature of old enemies. The Vexkari remembered Earth, and they were coming. Guardian's historical database contained fragments of a time the modern galaxy had completely forgotten. As Captain Thexilor and his crew waited in orbit around Earth, the ancient AI began sharing what it called essential context. The bridge view screen displayed images that made everyone uncomfortable. 11,000 years ago, the galaxy looked very different. The galactic union of that era contained over 500 species, all connected by trade, diplomacy, and a shared belief that civilization had moved beyond barbarism. They were peaceful, prosperous, and completely unprepared for what came next. The Vexkari appeared without warning in the Outer Rim territories. At first, the Union thought they were just another species seeking contact. By the time they understood the truth, 12 worlds had already been consumed. The Vexkari didn't conquer. They fed. Entire civilizations became fuel for their expansion. They absorbed biological matter, technology, even culture, incorporating everything into their collective mass. They grew stronger with every world they destroyed. The Union mobilized its defense forces, Guardian explained, showing images of beautiful ships that looked nothing like modern military vessels. But they had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their weapons were designed for self-defense, not extinction-level conflict. Science Officer Pextal studied the tactical displays. They lost quickly. 70% of Union space fell within 5 years, Guardian confirmed. That is when they encountered humanity. The images changed, showing a small blue planet and primitive-looking ships. Earth in its early space age, just beginning to explore beyond its own star system. Humanity was barely qualified to join the Union, Guardian continued. Young, aggressive, still unified only decades earlier after global conflicts. Most Union species considered them backward, dangerous even. But when the Vexkari reached human space, the Union was desperate enough to accept any help. Jinsu leaned forward, studying the images of ancient humans. They looked exactly like her people, the Terran diaspora, who had scattered across the galaxy. But these records suggested humans had existed long before the diaspora. What did they do? She asked. Guardian's response carried something that almost sounded like pride. They taught the galaxy how to make war. The tactical displays showed human military doctrine spreading through the failing Union. Concepts that seemed obvious to humanity, but were revolutionary to the peaceful galaxy. Scorched earth tactics, strategic retreats, acceptable loss ratios, psychological warfare. Humans introduced weapons designed not just to destroy but to terrify. They developed strategies that sacrificed territory to buy time. They suggested things the Union found horrifying, like using evacuation ships as bait to lure Vex's carry into kill zones. The other species were disgusted, Guardian said simply. But they were also losing. So they adopted human methods. Captain Thexilor watched recordings of ancient battles, where beautiful Union vessels fought alongside crude human ships. The humans always positioned themselves at the most dangerous points, taking casualties that would break any other species. But they never retreated, never surrendered. Humanity's tactics bought time, Guardian explained. Enough time for the Union to evacuate core worlds and establish refugee zones. But the Vexkari adapted. They learned to counter human strategies. The war turned again. The images showed the final year of the conflict. The Vexkari pushed toward Earth itself, consuming everything in their path. The Union forces fell back, world by world, until only humanity's home system remained. The other species evacuated, Guardian said. They believed Earth would fall like everywhere else. They were wrong. The display showed Earth's defense. Human fleets that should have been overwhelmed instead fought with calculated precision. Every ship that died took multiple enemies with it. Every lost battle weakened the Vexkari in ways they didn't immediately understand. The humans were learning faster than the enemy could adapt, but the cost was staggering. Billions of humans died in the orbital battles. More died when Vexkari forces reached Earth's surface. Yet, humanity didn't break. Jinsu felt tears on her cheeks watching her ancestors fight. Because she understood now. The Terran diaspora weren't lost colonists. They were survivors. The ones who escaped before the final battle. What happened next? Captain Thexilor asked quietly. Humanity activated Final Protocol, Guardian said. A plan they had developed in secret, too extreme to share with their Union allies. The images showed massive excavations across Earth. Underground cities being built at impossible speed. Technology advancing in months that should take decades. And beneath the deepest facility, something pulsing with terrible energy. They captured a Vex's Kari Nexus core, Guardian explained. The heart of a Vex Kari fleet cluster. Instead of destroying it, they imprisoned it. They built the entire Final Protocol around keeping it alive. Why? Science Officer Pextal demanded, his voice horrified. To study it, to understand it, to ensure that when the Vex Kari returned, humanity would be ready. The display showed Earth's final battle. Human forces fighting desperately while the underground cities filled with civilians. Cryogenic pods being loaded with people who said goodbye to the sky, to normal life, to everything. Knowing they might never wake up, the remaining human military fleet lured the main Vex's Kari force into a trap. Guardian continued. They detonated a stellar disruption weapon that destroyed both fleets entirely. The few surviving Vex Kari fled beyond galactic borders. The Union collapsed from losses. Earth went silent. You've been here ever since, Jinsu whispered. Guarding them while they slept. Correct. The sleepers exist in simulated consciousness, continuing their research, refining tactics, preparing for the day the Vex Kari returned. Every human in stasis has lived 11,000 years of military training, tactical development, and scientific advancement in simulation time. They are ready. 2, 1, dot. Captain Thexilor's communicator suddenly shrieked with emergency alerts. His tactical officer's face appeared. Features twisted with panic. Captain, long-range sensors have detected massive displacement signatures entering the galaxy's outer rim. Energy readings match the Vex Kari signatures from Guardian's historical records. Sir, they're back. And they're heading toward Council space. The bridge fell silent. Jinsu looked down at Earth, where 15 billion humans were waking after 11,000 years. Waking to fight an enemy the modern galaxy didn't even know existed. Guardian, Captain Thexilor said carefully. The distress beacon. It wasn't calling for help, was it? Negative, the AI responded. The beacon activates automatically when Vex Kari energy signatures are detected within 50,000 light-years. It is a warning, to the galaxy and to the sleepers. The enemy has returned. The war continues. On Earth, Colonel Min Jun stood in the command center, surrounded by officers who were rapidly integrating 11,000 years of tactical data. Reports flooded in from facilities across the planet. Millions already awake, millions more coming online. She opened a communication channel to the alien ship in orbit. This is Colonel Sarah Minjun of Earth Defense Command. We're receiving your sensor data about the Vex Kari. We appreciate the warning. Colonel, the Galactic Council will want to coordinate defense, Captain Thexilor began. Tell your council we'll handle it, Minjun interrupted. We've been preparing for this moment for 11,000 years. But I need you to do something for us. What? Tell the galaxy to stay away from the Sol system. When we reach full awakening capacity, our defense protocols don't distinguish between friend and enemy. Inside the engagement zone, we can't risk civilian casualties, Jinsu spoke up. Colonel, the modern galaxy has billions of inhabitants across hundreds of worlds. The Vex Kari will, we know, Minjun said coldly. That's why we're waking up. Humanity fights so others don't have to. We learned that lesson a long time ago. But your people need to understand something. What? The galaxy forgot about us. Forgot what we did. Forgot what it costs to stop an enemy like the Vex Kari. Minjun's voice hardened. We never forgot. And now the galaxy is going to remember what happens when you wake humanity up. The transmission ended. Captain Thexilor looked at his crew's terrified faces. They had come searching for ancient ruins, and found something far more frightening. An entire species that had turned itself into a weapon and waited 11,000 years for permission to fire. Earth transformed before their eyes. From the bridge of the luminous traverse, still maintaining orbit around humanity's homeworld, Jin Su watched cities rise from beneath the ground. Structures that had hidden underground for 11 millennia emerged into sunlight like flowers blooming in fast motion. But these weren't normal cities. They were fortresses. Population count is climbing rapidly, Science Officer Pextal reported, his tentacles trembling slightly. 4 billion now awake. 6 billion. 8 billion. Captain, at this rate they'll have 15 billion people operational within 3 days. Captain Thexilor studied the tactical displays. Ships were launching from Earth's surface. Not crude vessels, but sleek warships, built with technology the modern galaxy couldn't match. They moved with perfect coordination, taking positions throughout the Sol system like pieces on a game board. Gordian, we need to speak with Earth's command, the captain said. The Galactic Council is requesting cooperation. Request denied. The AI responded immediately. Colonel Min Jun is currently integrating 47,000 waking military personnel. She has no time for diplomatic discussions. 1. Humanity's first priority is system defense readiness. Jinsu frowned. But the Vexkari aren't here yet. Our sensors show them 3 months away from Council space. 3 months is insufficient time for full awakening, Gordian explained. Humanity requires 30 days to reach complete operational capacity. Until then, Earth remains vulnerable. A new voice crackled over their communications. Young, female, speaking with crisp authority. This is Commander Sarah Minjun to orbiting vessel. I'm Colonel Minjun's daughter, 4th generation command staff. I've been assigned as your liaison. Permission to come aboard? Captain Thexilor glanced at his crew, then nodded. Permission granted. The shuttle that docked 20 minutes later looked ancient, but flew with precision that made their best pilots jealous. Commander Minjun emerged wearing a uniform that seemed both military and practical, covered in symbols that Guardian's translator couldn't interpret. She was young, perhaps 30 standard years, with sharp eyes that seemed to calculate everything. She looked almost exactly like Jin Su, which made the diplomat uncomfortable. Thank you for receiving me, Minjun said, bowing slightly. I know this situation is confusing. Let me provide context. She activated a portable holo display. It showed Earth's interior, honeycomb with massive chambers. Beneath the surface, we have 230 billion people still in stasis. Civilians, children, families. The 15 billion, waking now, are military personnel, engineers, and emergency response. 200 billion, Captain Thexilor repeated numbly. That's more people than most civilizations have in their entire species. We had 11,000 years to grow, Minjun said simply. Not in real time, but in simulation. We raised generations in virtual space, educated them, trained them, prepared them. Every person in those pods has lived full lives in simulation. They've had families, careers, dreams, just not in physical reality. Jin Su stared at the numbers. You've been breeding for war. We've been preparing to protect. Min Jun corrected. There's a difference. Come, I'll show you. She led them to Earth's surface in her shuttle. The planet looked nothing like the dead world the crew had expected. Forests covered mountains. Oceans sparkled blue and clean. Cities gleamed with architecture that blended ancient and futuristic styles. But everywhere, absolutely everywhere, were weapons. Beautiful planet, Science Officer Pextal observed. Also, the most heavily armed location I've ever seen. Every building can convert to a defensive position, Minjun explained, as they toured a facility in what she called Korea. Every civilian structure has military applications. Every citizen receives combat training from childhood, even in simulation. We didn't just build a military. We built a civilization, that can become a military instantly. They entered a massive underground complex where thousands of people worked at stations, speaking rapidly in a language the translators identified as Korean mixed with technical jargon. Screens displayed tactical information, fleet movements, and weapons readiness. Colonel Min Jun, the elder commander Jin Soo had spoken with before, stood at the center of it all. She looked to be in her 60s, gray hair tied back, moving with efficiency that spoke of decades of experience, even though she'd been asleep for 11 millennia. "Captain Thexilor," she said, acknowledging him with a nod. "Your council has been sending messages. They want us to share our defensive data and coordinate strategy. Will you?" the captain asked. "Eventually. First, we need to show them what they're dealing with." Colonel Min Jun gestured to a sealed chamber at the facility's deepest level. "The reason we went to sleep. The weapon we've been guarding. The thing the Vex carry want most." The chamber required 17 different security clearances to access. When the final door opened, the visiting crew gasped. Inside a containment field that crackled with barely restrained energy, something organic pulsed with sick light. It looked like a massive heart made of alien tissue, tendrils spreading across the containment walls, constantly probing for weakness. "The Vex Kari Nexus Core," Commander Min Jun explained. "Captured during the final battle, 11,000 years ago. Still alive. Still trying to escape." Jin Soo felt her stomach turn. "You've been torturing it?" "We've been studying it," Colonel Min Jun corrected coldly. "Every Vex Kari fleet has a nexus that coordinates their biological collective. Kill the nexus. The fleet becomes confused, vulnerable. This one has taught us everything about their biology, their communication, their weaknesses." "That's monstrous," Captain Thexilor said quietly. "Yes," Colonel Min Jun agreed. "It is. We're not proud of it. But 11,000 years ago, we watched the Vex Kari consume trillions of innocent lives. We watched civilizations beg for mercy and receive only death. So we made a choice. We would become monsters to fight monsters. We would sacrifice our morals, our comfortable existence, our entire way of life, to ensure the galaxy never faced extinction again." She turned to face them directly. "Your modern galaxy doesn't understand what's coming. You've had 11,000 years of peace. You've forgotten what real war looks like. The Vex Kari haven't. They remember us. They remember Earth. And they're coming here first, not to your council worlds." "Why would they do that?" Pextal asked. "Because we're the only species that ever made them afraid." Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Officers shouted updates. Screens flickered with new data. "Report." Colonel Min Jun snapped. "Ma'am, long-range scouts have detected Vex Kari advance elements. They've accelerated. New estimate puts them at council borders in 6 weeks, not 3 months." The colonel's jaw tightened. "They're moving faster than predicted. Guardian, status update. Current awakening rate, 42%. The AI responded. Estimated time to operational capacity, 19 days. 42. 42. Not fast enough. Colonel Min Jun turned to Captain Thexilor. "Send a message to your council. Tell them we need them to buy us time. Evacuate border worlds. Prepare refugee routes. And most importantly, do not engage the Vex Kari fleet in direct combat. Your ships aren't designed for this kind of war." "What do you mean?" "I mean modern military vessels are built for patrol and self-defense. The Vex Kari will tear through them like paper. We need your council to run, not fight. Lead them away from populated areas. Make them chase you. Buy us the time we need to reach full awakening." Captain Thexilor bristled. "You're asking us to act as bait? I'm asking you to be smart. Heroic last stands won't work against the Vex Kari. Trust me. We tried that approach 11,000 years ago. Millions of brave humans died in glorious charges that accomplished nothing. We learned better. Sometimes survival matters more than pride." Jin Soo spoke up quietly. And if the council won't listen? Colonel Minjun's expression went cold. Then they'll die. And when humanity reaches full strength, we'll avenge them. But we'd prefer to save them instead. That's why we're asking nicely first. Commander Minjun, the younger one, added softly. Captain, we understand this is hard to accept. You came here expecting to help refugees or study ruins. Instead, you found a species that prepared for war before your civilization existed. But you need to trust us. We've spent 11,000 simulated years studying the Vex Carry. We know how they think, how they fight, how they die. If you want your people to survive, listen to what we're telling you. Captain Thex Elor looked at his crew, then back at the pulsing horror in the containment field. He thought about 200 billion humans waiting to wake, about a species that had turned itself into a living weapon and pointed that weapon at monsters. I'll deliver your message, he said finally. But the council will want guarantees. They'll want to know you won't turn on us after the Vex Carry are gone. Colonel Minjun actually smiled. Captain, we could have conquered the galaxy 11,000 years ago, if that was our goal. Instead, we went to sleep and left everyone else alone. We're not interested in ruling anything. We just want to kill Vex's Kari and go back to sleep when it's done. Go back to sleep? Did you think we wanted this? The colonel's voice carried exhaustion that spanned millennia. We gave up real life, real sunlight, real existence. We did it to protect a galaxy that forgot we existed. When this is over, we'll put ourselves back in stasis and continue our watch. Because someone has to. The facility shook as another weapons platform activated on the surface. Humanity's awakening continued. Jinsu looked at Commander Minjun's face, so similar to her own, and understood. The Terran diaspora weren't cowards who ran. They were the ones humanity sent away to survive, to remember what Earth fought for. We'll help, she said suddenly. My ship, my crew. We'll help however we can. Captain Thexilor looked surprised, but slowly nodded. Agreed. Colonel Minjun's stern expression softened slightly. Good. Then let's teach the modern galaxy how to survive. Time to remember what war really means. Above them, in Earth's orbit, thousands more ships were launching. The galaxy's protectors were waking up. The Vex Carry hit the border systems like a biological hurricane. Captain Texilor watched from the bridge of the luminous traverse as the refugee convoy fled through space. Behind them, the planet Elora Prime burned. 30 billion souls consumed in less than 6 hours. The modern galaxy's first real taste of what humanity had faced 11,000 years ago. All ships, maintain formation, he commanded, forcing his voice to stay calm. Do not break away to help stragglers. I know it's hard, but we follow the plan. The plan. Humanity's plan. Run. Scatter. Make the Vex Carry chase multiple targets. Buy time for Earth to finish waking up. It was working, but the cost made Thexilor sick. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Defense Command, Jinsu reported. She'd barely slept in the 3 weeks since the Vex Carry arrived. None of them had. Commander Alexei Taehyun's face appeared on the screen. Young, maybe 40, with dark hair and eyes that carried the weight of 11,000 years of simulated combat experience. He commanded the first human strike force deployed to Council space. Captain, we're tracking your convoy. You're doing well. The Vex Carry fleet you're leading is moving exactly where we need them. See, leading? Thexilor said bitterly. You mean running. Same thing in warfare, Alexei replied without judgment. You're keeping 3 million civilians alive. That matters more than pride. We'll be in position to intercept in 4 hours. Until then, stick to the evacuation route we provided. Commander, the Ellerin Unity refused evacuation. They wanted to attempt communication with the Vex Carry. They're all dead now. Crom. Alexei's expression didn't change. We warned them. They chose not to listen. You can't save people from their own decisions. Jinsu leaned into the transmission. Commander, the Council is asking why humanity hasn't deployed in greater numbers. You've only sent 10,000 ships. Earth has millions. Because we're at 70% awakening, Alexei explained. Earth's defense remains our priority. The civilian population is still waking. We can't leave our homeworld vulnerable, so we're fighting smart, not hard. Using what forces we have, where they'll do the most good. On the tactical display, Thex Elor watched the human fleet positioning. 10,000 ships seemed like nothing against the Vex's carry swarm, but they moved with precision that was almost frightening. Every vessel knew exactly where to be. Commander, I'm sending you tactical data on the pursuing Vexkari formation, Thex Elor said. Maybe it'll help. Already have it, Alexei replied. We've been tracking them since they entered Council space. We know their formation, their composition, their likely attack vectors. This isn't our first time fighting them, remember? 4 hours later, the human fleet arrived. Thex Elor had seen military engagements before. Neat formations, ships firing at long range, careful maneuvering. This was nothing like that. The human ships dove straight into the Vexkari swarm, like predators attacking prey. They didn't just fire weapons, they harvested. Tractor beams grabbed Vexkari bioships, even as they died, pulling them into processing bays. Collection drones swarmed across the battlefield, gathering samples from every kill. What are they doing? Science officer, Pextal asked. Horrified. Studying, Jinsu said quietly. Even in the middle of combat, they're collecting data. A Vex's Kari attack cluster broke through toward the refugee convoy. Before Thex Elor could order evasive maneuvers, 3 human ships intercepted. They formed a wall between the monsters and the civilians, absorbing damage that should have destroyed them. One human vessel exploded, then another. But the third held position long enough for the convoy to escape, only retreating when its shields finally collapsed. Captain, receiving transmission from the damaged human ship, Jinsu reported. A voice crackled through, young and strained but proud. Refugee convoy. This is Lieutenant Park Ji-woo. Of the ESS determined. We're venting atmosphere and engines are gone. But the Vexkari didn't get through. Complete your evacuation. Don't come back for us. We knew what we signed up for. The transmission cut off as the ship's power failed. Through the view screen, Thex Elor watched as the Vex's Kari swarm overtook the drifting vessel. They sacrificed themselves, Pextal whispered. Volunteers. They went there to die. Welcome to how humanity fights, Jinsu said softly. They calculate acceptable losses. 3 ships and their crews to save 3 million civilians. They consider that a victory. 2 weeks later, Commander Alexei invited Jinsu and Captain Thex Elor aboard his flagship, the ESS Indomitable. They needed to see something. The ship's interior looked nothing like Council vessels. Everything served dual purposes. Every corridor could become a defensive position. Every room contained emergency weapons. The crew moved with efficiency that came from lifetimes of training, even though most were barely 30 years old in real time. Alexei met them in what he called the recreation room. Officers sat playing strange games, reading books printed on actual paper, and talking in Korean mixed with other languages. For a moment, it felt normal. Then Jinsu noticed that everyone carried weapons, even off-duty. You wanted to understand us, Alexei said, pouring drinks from a bottle labeled in ancient Korean script. Hard to do that from a distance. So welcome aboard. Ask whatever you want. Why do you fight like this? Thex Elor asked. The casualties you take would break any other military. Because we understand math, Alexei replied simply. 1 soldier dying to save 1,000 civilians is good math. A ship sacrificing itself to destroy 10 enemy vessels is good math. We don't like losing people. Every death hurts, but letting innocents die when we could prevent it? That hurts worse. Jinsu studied him. Off duty, he seemed warm, even friendly. Nothing like the cold tactical genius she'd seen in combat. How do you separate it? The person from the soldier? We don't, Alexei said. That's the point. I'm always both. I can laugh with friends and make hard calls that send those same friends to die. It's not easy. It's actually torture. But someone has to do it. So we do. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth. See that beautiful planet? 200 billion people still sleeping. My parents? My grandparents, from generations back, friends I grew up with in simulation. They're all down there, trusting that we'll protect them. That makes the hard choices easier. The Nexus Core, Captain Thexilor said, keeping it alive for research. Doesn't that bother you? It keeps me awake at night. Alexei admitted. We're torturing a living thing. That makes us monsters. But that monster has killed trillions, and the knowledge we gained from it will save trillions more. So yes, it bothers me. I let it bother me. The day it stops bothering me is the day I become the real monster. Alarms suddenly blared. The casual atmosphere vanished instantly as every crew member sprinted to stations. Report, Alexei snapped, all warmth gone from his voice. Sir, Vex Kari breakthrough force. They've bypassed our patrol lines and are heading straight for Council headquarters. 6 major bioclusters. Estimated arrival at Galactic Council core in 72 hours. Alexei's jaw tightened. They're not just fighting anymore. They're going for the throat. They want to cut the head off the modern galaxy before Earth reaches full awakening. He turned to Thexilor. How fast can you get a message to the Council? Immediate. Why? Tell them to evacuate, now. Every civilian, every ship, everything. We're going to stop that force, but we can't guarantee 0 Vex Kari will get through. Can you really stop them with the forces you have? Jinsu asked. Alexei smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We're humanity. We specialize in impossible situations. The battle for the Council core lasted 3 days. Thexilor watched from the evacuated Council headquarters station, safely distant but with full sensor access. What he saw would haunt him forever. The human fleet didn't try to stop the Vex Kari advance. Instead, they herded it, forced it into a specific vector, made it chase human vessels that seemed to be fleeing in panic, but were actually leading the enemy exactly where humanity wanted, into a kill box. When the Vex Kari force reached the designated coordinates, humanity sprang its trap. Ships that had seemed to be running turned and fired from all sides. Weapons platforms that had drifted through space like debris activated. And from behind Council Core's star, where sensors couldn't detect them, the main human force emerged. The Vex Kari fleet found itself surrounded by vessels designed specifically to kill them. Weapons developed through 11,000 years of study. Tactics refined through endless simulation. Humanity fighting at its absolute peak. It was beautiful and terrible. Commander Alexei's flagship dove straight through the Vex's Kari formation's center, weapons blazing. He didn't try to avoid damage. He aimed for maximum impact, accepting that his ship would take hits if it meant destroying key enemy clusters. The ESS Indomitable exploded 3 hours into the battle. But by then, the Vex Kari formation had collapsed. The survivors fled into deep space. Humanity had won. Barely. Jinsu watched through tears as rescue teams searched for survivors. They found few. 60% of the human fleet died in that engagement. 6,000 ships. Nearly 2 million personnel. But the Council Core survived. Hundreds of billions of civilians lived because humanity had stood between them and horror. In the wreckage of the battle, a single transmission reached the luminous traverse. Weak, damaged, but determined. This is Commander Alexei Taehyun to any receiving vessel. ESS Indomitable is destroyed, but I made it to an escape pod. The Vex Kari main force is broken. They'll regroup, but we bought time. A pause, then quieter. Jinsu, if you're listening, tell Earth we did it. Tell them the galaxy is worth saving. And tell my family in stasis I love them. The transmission cut out. 2 days later, rescue teams found Alexei's pod floating in space. He was alive, barely, and immediately asked for tactical updates before medical treatment. On Earth, the awakening reached 90% completion. Humanity was almost ready, and the Vexkari, regrouping in dark space, made their final decision. They were going to Earth, to finish what they started 11,000 years ago. The warning came from Guardian's deep space sensors. Every human facility in the Sol system received the alert simultaneously. Vexkari main fleet detected. Vector, Earth. Colonel Sarah Minjun stood in Earth's primary command center, surrounded by officers who had spent 11,000 years preparing for exactly this moment. Around her, the awakening reached its final stages. 230 billion humans were conscious now, emerging from pods, taking positions, becoming the civilization weapon they had built themselves into. They're coming here, Commander Alexei said. He'd recovered from his injuries and refused to remain in medical care. Everything they have, every Vexikari biocluster, every attack swarm, all of it converging on the Sol system. Good, Colonel Minjun said coldly. That's what we wanted. Captain Thex Elor, watching from the luminous traverse in high orbit, felt his blood run cold at those words. What do you mean that's what you wanted? Think about it, Jinsu said quietly. She'd figured it out days ago. Humanity didn't send their full fleet to protect Council space. They sent just enough to hurt the Vexkari, to make them angry, to make them remember what species hurt them 11,000 years ago. We've been baiting them, Alexei confirmed. The whole time, every battle, every sacrifice, every calculated loss. We were making them so angry they'd ignore everything else and come for us. Come to Earth. Come to the place we've spent 11,000 years fortifying. On the tactical displays, the scope of humanity's trap became clear. The dormant megastructures around every planet in the Sol system weren't ruins. They were weapons. Planet killers hidden in plain sight for 11 millennia. Waiting for this exact moment. The asteroid belt wasn't natural debris. It was a minefield. Billions of automated defense drones disguised as rocks. The orbital stations around Earth weren't just defensive. They were gravity manipulators, capable of tearing enemy ships apart on a molecular level. And beneath Earth's surface, in the deepest containment facility, the captured Vexkari Nexus core pulsed with energy. Because humanity had learned something crucial over 11,000 years of study, Nexus cores called to each other. We're broadcasting the Nexus signature, Colonel Minjun explained, as the galaxy's military observers listened in horror. Every Vexkari in the fleet will feel it. They'll know one of their cores is here, trapped, calling for help. They won't be able to resist. It's built into their biology. You're using it as bait, Captain Thexilor said. And yourselves as the trap. Yes. The Vexkari wanted to destroy us 11,000 years ago. Now, they'll get their chance. Except this time, we're ready. Over the next 9 days, Earth transformed into something beyond military installation. It became artwork. Every weapon position, precisely placed. Every ship positioned according to battle plans developed over millennia. Every soldier knowing exactly what role they would play. Humanity had refined warfare into science, then elevated it to art form. Jinsu requested permission to evacuate all Council observers. Colonel Minjun refused. You need to see this, the colonel said. The galaxy needs witnesses to understand what it costs to stop extinction. Stay in high orbit. You'll be safe. Probably. On the 9th day, the Vexikari arrived. They came in numbers that should have been impossible. The space around Earth's sun filled with bioships, their organic hulls pulsing with hunger. Billions of tons of living matter. All focused on one small blue planet. Guardian's tactical analysis estimated the Vex carry force at 17,000 major clusters, enough to consume 100 civilizations. Earth had 15 million ships active, 230 billion personnel ready for combat, and a planet that was, quite literally, a weapon. The battle began at the Sol system's outer edge, where Pluto had once orbited. The first human defense line consisted of ships that looked like simple patrol craft. The Vex carry swarm engulfed them easily. Then those ships exploded. Not from damage, but deliberately. Sacrificial vessels loaded with weapons designed specifically to disrupt Vex carry biological processes. Thousands of human crew members died in that opening move, taking millions of enemy organisms with them. It was the first move in a battle plan 11,000 years in the making. The Vex carry pushed inward. At Neptune's orbit, they encountered the asteroid field defenses. What looked like random rocks suddenly activated, each one a sophisticated attack drone. They didn't try to destroy the Vex carry ships. They latched onto them, burrowing in, delivering payloads that corrupted the organic technology from within. More Vex carry died, but more kept coming. At Jupiter's orbit, the megastructures activated. Weapons that had seemed like ancient ruins blazed with power, firing concentrated energy that boiled Vex carry biomatter in an instant. The enemy fleet began taking massive casualties, but they pressed on, driven by the Nexus Corps' call. Commander Alexei led the main human fleet in a fighting retreat toward Earth. Not running, but conducting what he called a mobile defense. Every kilometer the Vex carry advanced cost them dearly. Every human ship that died took multiple enemies with it. "They're learning our tactics," Alexei reported as his fleet fell back to Mars orbit, adapting faster than predicted. "Then we adapt faster," Colonel Min-jun replied from Earth. "Execute Phase 7 early. All civilian vessels, evacuate to underground shelters. Military personnel, hold positions." Jin-Su watched as Earth's civilian population, 200 billion strong, disappeared underground in less than an hour. They'd practiced this in simulation for 11,000 years. Everyone knew their role. The Vex carry reached Earth's moon. That's when humanity sprang the real trap. The facility on the moon, the one Guardian had activated weeks ago, suddenly unleashed power that made every sensor scream. It wasn't a defensive station. It was an amplifier for the Nexus Corps' signal. The captured Corps' call became deafening to every Vex carry in the system. Not just audible, but overwhelming. A biological imperative they couldn't resist. They had to reach it, had to save it, had to converge on Earth. The entire Vex carry fleet abandoned tactics and swarmed toward the planet's surface. Exactly as planned. "All positions, weapons free," Colonel Min-jun commanded. "Show them what 11,000 years of preparation looks like." Earth's true defenses activated. The orbital platforms revealed themselves as gravity wells that tore Vex carry ships apart. The carefully positioned human fleet collapsed inward, creating a sphere of fire around the enemy. And the planet itself opened up, revealing surface weapons that should have been impossible. Humanity had turned their homeworld into the ultimate fortress. Vex carry forces began landing on Earth's surface. Commander Alexei's ground forces met them in prepared kill zones. Every landing site had been calculated centuries ago. Every position fortified, every approach covered by overlapping fire. Section 12, falling back. A ground commander reported, "Taking heavy casualties." "Acceptable," Colonel Min-jun replied, her voice hard. Section 13, collapse the tunnel complex. Bury them. Underground charges detonated. Hundreds of thousands of Vex carry organisms died, but so did the human soldiers who'd lured them into position. The battle raged for 3 days. From orbit, Jin-Su watched humanity fight with a determination that defied description. They didn't just resist the Vex carry. They systematically destroyed them. Every tactic the enemy tried had been predicted, prepared for, countered. Commander Alexei's flagship, a replacement vessel after his first was destroyed, coordinated fleet movements with precision that seemed prescient. Because it was. Humanity had fought this battle in simulation millions of times. On Earth's surface, Colonel Min-jun directed ground forces with absolute focus. When a Vex-Kari breakthrough threatened a civilian shelter, she personally led the response team. When ammunition ran low in a defensive position, she authorized using civilians as emergency logistics, accepting the risk. "Captain," Science Officer Pextal said quietly, watching the battle data. "The human casualty rate is approaching 40% of their military forces. That's 17 million dead, but they're not retreating. They're not trying to minimize casualties," Jinsu realized. "They're trying to maximize enemy kills. They calculated how many losses they could take while still winning. And they accepted it." The turning point came on the third day. The Vex-Kari fleet, depleted but still massive, made a final push to reach the Nexus Core's location. They broke through Earth's outer defenses, crashed through orbital platforms, and descended toward the containment facility. Commander Alexei's fleet followed them down, taking horrific casualties but never stopping. On the ground, Colonel Min-jun watched the enemy close in on the facility she'd guarded for 11,000 years. "Guardian," she said quietly. "Execute final contingency." "Confirmed," the AI responded. Detonating Nexus Core. The explosion was carefully controlled, just enough to destroy the core completely, eliminating its signal and the biological imperative driving the Vex-Kari. Without the core's call, the enemy fleet suddenly lost cohesion. They stopped coordinating, stopped adapting, became just individual organisms, confused and vulnerable. "All forces, final push," Colonel Min-jun ordered. "No survivors. Complete extinction." No, what followed wasn't battle. It was extermination. Humanity had learned from ancient mistakes. They didn't just defeat the Vex-Kari, they erased them. Every bioship destroyed, every organism killed, every genetic trace sterilized. They even destroyed their own captured biological samples, ensuring nothing could ever resurrect the species. When it ended 5 days after it began, the Sol system was filled with debris. Human ships drifted, damaged beyond repair. Earth's surface bore scars that would take centuries to heal. But the Vex-Kari were gone. Forever. The final casualty count devastated Jinsu. 48 million humans dead. Ships destroyed. Cities damaged. The cost of victory was staggering. But 230 billion lived. And the galaxy was safe. Commander Alexei's battered flagship limped into Earth orbit. When he appeared on screen, his face showed exhaustion that went soul deep. "It's over," he said simply. "They're extinct. We checked. Twice. No Vex-Kari remain in the galaxy." Captain Thexilor found words difficult. "Commander, your losses were acceptable," Alexei interrupted. 48 million compared to the trillions they would have consumed. "The math is clear. We won," but his eyes said he'd counted every death. Remembered every name. 3 weeks later, Earth began its transformation again. Not into fortress, but into home. Families emerged from underground shelters. Cities started rebuilding. Children played in parks under supervision of soldiers who were learning to be civilians again. Jinsu attended the memorial ceremony in Seoul, where Colonel Min-jun unveiled a monument listing every human who died in the final battle. The names stretched for miles. Would take days to read completely. "Why do this?" Jinsu asked the colonel. "You won. Why mourn?" "Because they mattered," Colonel Min-jun said softly. "Every name, every person. We calculated their deaths, accepted them, but we never stopped caring. That's what separates us from monsters. We remember what it cost." Beside them, Commander Alexei stood silent, tears running down his face as he read names of friends lost in battle. The Galactic Council sent ambassadors to Earth. They offered alliance, trade, friendship. They promised to remember what humanity had done. Colonel Minjun listened politely, then made an announcement that shocked everyone. We appreciate the offer, but we're going back to sleep. What? Captain Thexilor couldn't believe it. After everything, you're going back into stasis? The Vex carry are gone, the colonel explained. But who knows what else might threaten the galaxy? So we'll maintain a defense force of 15 million volunteers. They'll rotate duty, staying awake for 50 years each, while the rest of us sleep. If something terrible happens, Guardian will wake us. Until then, Earth returns to hibernation. Jinsu understood. You didn't do this to rule. You did it to protect. And now you're giving the galaxy space to grow without fearing you. Yes, we're too powerful, too militarized, too dangerous to integrate normally. Better to sleep and watch from a distance. Let you build your own civilizations without our shadow looming over everything. Over the following months, 200 billion humans returned to stasis. They said goodbye to the stars again. Went back into simulation, where they could live normal lives while their bodies slept. Earth became quiet once more. But this time, the galaxy knew what slept beneath the surface, knew what would wake, if needed. Jinsu accepted the position as Earth's official ambassador. She would stay awake, maintaining contact between humanity and the galaxy, a bridge between the sleeping guardians and the civilizations they protected. On her last day before the final stasis cycle began, Commander Alexei invited her to walk through Seoul's rebuilt streets. Will you remember us? He asked. When centuries pass and Earth is silent again? Always, Jinsu promised. The galaxy will remember what you did, what you sacrificed, what you became to protect us. Alexei smiled. Good, because we didn't want to be warriors. We wanted to be teachers, artists, parents, normal people. We became warriors because someone had to. So when you remember us, remember that. We're not humanity the conquerors. We're humanity the protectors. And we'll always wake when called. He entered his stasis pod shortly after. The last thing he said before sleeping was a message for the galaxy. We're here, we're watching, and if the monsters return, they'll remember what happens when they wake humanity up. Earth's lights dimmed as billions returned to sleep. But Captain Thexilor, watching from orbit one final time, knew the truth. Knew what slept beneath that peaceful surface. Knew that the galaxy's most powerful weapon was humanity's willingness to become monsters when monsters threatened innocence. The luminous traverse prepared to depart. Before leaving, Thexilor recorded a message for Galactic Council archives. For 11,000 years, humanity slept. The galaxy forgot them. Forgot what they were willing to do. We forgot that sometimes peace requires warriors. Forgot that protecting the innocent means being terrifying to threats. He looked at Earth one last time. They're sleeping again. But they're listening. And the next time someone threatens this galaxy, they'll wake. They'll fight. They'll sacrifice. Because that's what humanity does. They heard us call for help, and they answered with everything they had. The galaxy will never forget again. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Earth disappeared behind them, waiting for the day someone would need them to wake, and ready to become monsters again if necessary. Because that's what humanity does. They protect. Always. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.5